Welcome to the Tyler's Place podcast, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the world. It's a podcast by Freemasons for Freemasons. And if you're interested in becoming a Freemason or joining the Scottish Rite, go to scottishrite.org online to get started. I'm Maynard Edwards, 33rd degree from the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C. Hopefully, you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/Scottish Rite Masons. If you like Masonic content, it is a great channel. And if you're subscribed, then hopefully you have already seen our recent video that is a list of 5 of our favorite Masonic YouTube channels. Now, there's a bunch of great ones out there, and we just picked 5 and put them on a list for people to check out. I'm going to drop a link to that video in the description for this episode. But one of the channels we mentioned is the YouTube channel belonging to the Brothers of Huguenot Lodge number 46 in Westchester, New York. And the reason I love this channel so much is because this is not a group of historians or professional scholars or professional Freemasons. This is a group of brothers who are exploring their lodge history, and they're doing it and putting it online for all of us to watch, and it's happening almost in real time. I mean, they make a discovery, they put it online. It's really fun to watch. And the brother leading this effort is Brother Lee Justo, who is joining us now by Zoom. Brother Lee, it's really great to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Pleasure.
Thanks for doing this for me. I've been watching your videos. I've enjoyed them. It's kind of cool what you're undertaking for your lodge, and I wanted to talk to you because there's so many lodges like yours out there that have sort of an interesting history, and I thought maybe hearing from somebody like yourself that's undertaking something like this, it might encourage some other brothers to start doing some digging. You know,
I agree. I think it'd be awesome. So the more content we can push out collectively, the better, because boy, it's a sore out there.
And sooner or later, somebody's going to uncover something that's really significant. You found some really cool attachments to the American Revolution, but somebody's going to find a minutes book somewhere that says something really important that we're going to need. It only takes a liner to change history when it comes to Freemasonry, and it has happened. You know, if people get out there and get into those books and then share it, whether they make YouTube videos or podcasts or they just scan the stuff, I think it's important. So let's start at the beginning here, man. Westchester, New York is where the lodge is. Huguenot Lodge number 46.
Correct.
And are you the historian, or?
I was appointed the historian after undertaking this.
Okay, so you fell into this.
I did.
One of your videos came across my YouTube feed. I watched it, and it was basically you and some other brothers, but mainly you shouldering it all and doing a lot of traveling to cover it, kind of searching through your lodge's history. So let's start there and tell us a little bit about the history of Huguenot Lodge number 46. It's Westchester, New York, right?
It is, yeah, Westchester County. So Westchester County is the county just north of New York City, the Bronx, the 5 boroughs. So we decided to clean out our storage back in the springtime, and we found these old books, and we started looking through them, and there were like last names that were now street signs throughout like the Bronx and Westchester County, and
cool.
Yeah, so like Underhill and Bartow, and we had some Pells in our lodge, and the town or village of Pelham is named for them. So one of the brothers was like, hey, what if George Washington visited our lodge at one point? So I've always been like a bit of a history nut. I mean, I just really passionate about history. So I undertook this like quest to figure out who these people were. You know, New York has a great library, the Robert R. Livingston Memorial Library at the Grand Lodge building. And one of the gentlemen who works there is actually in one of my other lodges I'm a member of. And he helped me a lot. I was actually able to sit down and see our first meeting notes from June of 1796. And I was able to record who our original members were, and I just started doing research on them.
Yeah, and one of your YouTube videos, kind of, you take a camera in there and you actually are in real time looking at these books and getting the first look at these names, and you actually get to see on the video the actual 1809, or I'm sorry, I'm that's my lodge first year, 1796, I think you said. And was exciting to me about it is that I'm not my lodge historian, but as I'm the secretary now and past master, and I'm the guy with the key to the archives, and I actually have my hands on our original minute book from 1809. It's in this big fireproof safe we've had, and it's just such a cool thing to see. Like their penmanship makes us just look like, we write with our feet. It's crazy.
Absolutely. It's artistic. It really is.
Tell me a couple of cool things you found out about your lodge, because you've done a bunch of videos. It's just you on this discovery, and I really enjoy that.
I appreciate that. Our second master, one of the founding members, was Oliver Delancey. And the Delancey family just was basically running New York, and their biggest political opposition was the Livingston family. So Oliver Delancey is related to all these people. For example, if you've ever gone to Trinity Church down in Manhattan, where they filmed National Treasure was filmed there.
Sure.
There's a big statue of John Watts Jr. And I don't think anyone even knew he was a Mason, but he appeared in one of our books. And I had my brother Alex Vistola, who works at the Livingston Library, look it up, and he figured out that he was a Mason. He thinks his father was a Mason, as well as a couple of his sons. So now John Watts Jr. was actually related to Oliver Delancey, our second master. His mother, I think, was a Delancey. John Watts Jr.'s sister was married to John Johnson, Sir John Johnson. Now, Sir John Johnson was the son of Sir William Johnson. Sir William Johnson was one of the founding members of St. Patrick's Lodge up in Johnstown, New York, which is not far from Albany. And this is back in, I think, the 1760s was when that lodge was founded. So there were all these connections to the events that happened in upstate New York and our lodge just through Oliver Delancey alone. And then I found out, like, John Watts Jr. was also related to this whole family too, because Sir William Johnson's uncle was married to our Oliver Delancey's aunt, and now there are three Oliver Delanceys I know about, so it gets a little bit confusing. But
it's a neat story to me, because when you think about the years and that you're talking about, your lodge was really coming to fruition and starting to form, and the brothers were starting to come together at exactly the same time. And you point this out in your videos a few times, exactly the same time that the American Revolution is going on, and New York in that area was kind of the epicenter of a lot of those things. I mean, New York, Philadelphia, you forget that that's where that history took place. And your brothers, our brothers, I guess, are right in the middle of all of that.
Well, some of the founding members of our lodge, because our lodge was chartered in 1796, were a little too young to serve in the Revolution. We had some that did, but they all lived through this.
Right.
Right. One of the most interesting connections to me was Samuel Seabury. I don't know if you've ever seen Hamilton the musical, but there's actually a scene where
I can't. I don't roll that deep to afford tickets to that thing yet.
I saw it online, so
I'm going up to see the Harry Potter musical in a week or two, but I haven't seen Hamilton yet.
Very nice. So Samuel Seabury, he was a very famous and important person back then, and he was the minister at two different churches where our founding members came from: St. Peter's in the Bronx and St. Paul's in Mount Vernon, New York. And, back then, each town had to pay to have an Anglican minister. So that was this guy's role. And he was a famous loyalist, and he got into this battle. I forgot what they called them now. But he would write these letters, and Alexander Hamilton and him got into this clash of words. And Alexander Hamilton actually won the verbal battle. But what's really interesting about Samuel Seabury is he became the first Episcopal bishop in the United States, and he was one of the few loyalists that came back here. He was accepted, and then he was a very active Mason, and he gave a sermon to his Masonic lodge in Connecticut after the Revolution, I think sometime in the 1790s, and he published this sermon, and he dedicated it to Most Worshipful George Washington, President of the United States, which I thought was really cool, because it's kind of like he went from loyalist to patriot.
That is cool. What has the reaction of the lodge members of Huguenot 46 been as you have started to uncover this history? Because to me, this kind of stuff is really exciting. I'm kind of like you are. Like I'm a history nerd, and you find these little threads and start pulling on them. It's exciting to me to be connected to that.
Oh, I agree, 100%. Part of the motivation for me making these is I started digging in. I was texting them, "Oh, you won't believe this, and you won't believe that," and all of a sudden I got the feeling like, okay, they've had enough. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just make a video. So that's how the whole project kind of started. One interesting thing about our lodge is we found this one book, and if you look at our first video, we're reading through it, and my brother, worshipful Steve Giannetti, he's like, "Oh, I think these were presentations they did in lodge."
I saw that. Yeah, I did see it. Like it's like it was like American history. It was different presentations.
Right, but what it actually was a record. We had a library. We had one of the first public libraries in the county.
Oh, wow.
We had over 500 books in there, and people would come in and they would pay a small fee, and they'd be able to take these books out. And we have some early founders of Westchester County, and we know what books they took out. It's pretty cool.
That is really cool, because I don't know if you know much about the House of the Temple. You're in the Northern Masonic jurisdiction, but in DC, the House of the Temple, it serves to this day as a public library. The public can come in and do research on Masonic topics. It's not a lending library. You can't take the books out of there, but still, whenever we're open, you can, and it's been that way since the doors opened on the place. You don't need to be a Mason. You can come in and study in our library. So I think Masonry and being a library is kind of a cool tradition. Have the brothers, now that you've done some of these videos, and have they started to sort of embrace the history? I mean, because it's really an interesting journey that you're on.
Oh, it's been fascinating. It's been a passion of mine now for months on end. We're actually having an event on October 24th in our lodge. The Deputy Grand Master for the state's coming, as well as several other Grand Lodge officers. We're having people from out of the district come in. So it's exciting. It's starting to spread throughout the brotherhood as people are like aware of what's going on. And I'm really hoping it encourages other lodges to do this, because there's so many lodges that have boxes in their storage with all this information. They don't even know what's in there.
And before we started recording, that was kind of what you and I were discussing. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the podcast here was because I want to encourage other brothers to do exactly what it is you're doing. I mean, you're not a professional historian, are you?
No, I'm not.
Yet you're kind of going on this journey and taking that role on for your lodge, and you have discovered some really cool connections to history, American history, through your lodge, and there are important discoveries waiting to be made that are sitting in filing cabinets, or like in your case, you guys had a storage room where there's there's boxes of these old things in there. Go through them, take some time and read them. And it only takes a couple of sentences to change history. And we've seen it happen in our lifetime, especially in Freemasonry. Little things add up to big changes. And I think what you're doing, I just want to applaud you for doing it, but encourage other people to do the same. So as you have done this, and as you have sort of started to tackle this, what has been the hardest thing for you? Every time the videos are cool because you're always in a different spot. And I'm like, he actually drove to this place to go shoot this part of the video, which not a lot of time driving
this summer.
I bet you did. Oh, you were up in Albany, and you were a couple of shots in New York City. So, which I know, to a normal person, the distance from Westchester to New York doesn't seem all that long. But if you're either trying to drive or take a train or whatever, it's a distance.
It could be 35 minutes, or it could be 2.5 hours.
Hey man, I live in DC. Yeah, 2 miles can take you 20 minutes, or it can take you 2 hours. So
absolutely. I'd like to give a little advice to people about this.
Please.
Yeah. The hardest thing is doing the research, because a lot of especially back then, you type these names in and you can't find anything on the web about them, or if you can, it's very spotty. I mean, we're lucky that we had Oliver Delancey, because his family was so well connected and so high profile. I mean, his mother was the daughter of Cadwallader Colden, who's the lieutenant governor of New York State prior to the American Revolution. So I mean, these were all very famous people. His uncle was the judge in the Zenger trial, which I'll be covering in future episodes. But I mean, it's like
I didn't see that one yet. Okay.
Yeah, no, I haven't done that one yet. But probably my next one's going to be on the Delancey family, because it's so extensive. Now, one really interesting. I don't know if you saw this short video, but Gideon Cogswell was our first master, and he was our master more than once. He was 14 at the time the American Revolution ended.
Wow.
And he was raised in Hudson Lodge, which is just south of Albany in the on Hudson River. And one of the founding lodge brothers of Hudson Lodge was this Captain John McKinstry. And there's this famous story about John McKinstry his life being spared by Joseph Brant. I don't know if you know about Joseph Brant, but he was a loyalist. His sister was married to Sir William Johnson, but he was a Native American. He was a Mohawk, and
I remember you telling this story on
the and there are stories throughout New York State. I did a video on the Cherry Valley Massacre where the same thing happened. He saved the life of, but to have our first master connected to him, because Joseph Brant, after the American Revolution, we have it on record that he visited Hudson Lodge numerous times. And the only reason he would be visiting that lodge, I think, would be because he became friends with John McKinstry, which is the history. So, I thought that was so cool that our first master was connected to that whole story.
Absolutely. What brought you to Masonry to begin with? So what made you give those 3 distinct knocks? I put that in front of everybody.
That's fine. I actually grew up in it. My first experience was I was a young kid, and I was taken to Thistle Lodge, had a Christmas party, and my grandfather had some connection to, I initially thought that he was in Thistle Lodge, but I think just his friends were. My great grandfather was a Mason, so when we used to go visit the graves, I would always see the Masonic symbol. And then my father, who was on the other side of the family, he became a Mason in the 1970s, and then I was in the DeMolay in the 80s. But when I was old enough to become a Mason, I had absolutely no interest in the fraternity. It was all like a bunch of old men, my dad's friends. And then I came to it when I was in my early 30s. I was very active for a number of years, and then family got in the way. And, I recently came back last year to Masonry, and I've thrown myself obviously well into the fraternity, and gladly so,
That's really cool.
I really enjoyed it, even.
That is really cool, though, to have that experience as a young man and to go through. But I don't think that's uncommon for a DeMolay to sort of take that fraternal breather in between, because my son is a Master Mason now. He was our state master counselor, and
nice.
I probably name drop him on the show too much, but he was our state master counselor, and I basically I don't know that I gave him a whole lot of choice. I know you're not supposed to ask people. I didn't really ask him. I just told him. And he gave me his signed petition for Christmas, which was great and made me tear up. But at the same time, it's like, you just gave me a Christmas present that I have to pay your initiation fee because you don't have any money.
Has he enjoyed DeMolay? I mean, he must.
He loves DeMolay. DeMolay has absolutely made him who he is today. He's I will say that up one side of the country and down the other. He's a college student. He's an Eagle Scout. He's a really good kid, but DeMolay is what helped him do so much of that. And then, just joining Freemasonry, but he's got a lot of buddies that, they age out, and then you kind of wait for them to drop that petition in the lodge, and they don't. But I think that they're going to probably do the same thing you did. They're going to get to that age where, they're starting to realize what it means to be an adult and want to be attached to something bigger than yourself. And they'll come back. So, and I know a lot of masters, a lot of secretaries get frustrated because the DeMolay kind of vanish when they hit 20, but man, they got to go get an education. They got to go meet a girl. They got to go, I mean, all those things you got to do in life before you can come back and knock on that door. So
yeah, lots of DeMolays come back. It just takes time. No doubt about it. I also want to thank our grand historian here in New York, Gary Heinmiller, because he did so much research. It was so easy for me to find Masons who were in the American military, because he had a list, this long PDF. It has their lodges, their units, and that made me it's so much easier for me to tell the story. At least of the Masons that I was able to connect to the American Revolution.
It attracts me because, one, I'm a Masonic history nerd, kind of like you have become, but two, the way you're telling the story, you're literally discovering a lot of this in real time, and the enthusiasm that you have for it and the things that you're discovering along the way are entertaining, and it's kind of fun to share that with a brother Mason. So
I have to say, my lodge is now an amalgamation of many lodges. I was originally a member of Westchester Lodge 702. They merged into Huguenot. we've lost records. Like there's nothing on some of our older lodges. So, lodge really has a responsibility to keep their records safe.
That's Brother Lee Justo of Huguenot Lodge number 46 in Westchester, New York, and he's the driving force behind their YouTube channel, and they are discovering their lodge history, and they're putting it online, telling the stories and sharing it with all of us, and it's so much fun to watch the journey of discovery that those brothers are going on. And I commend the Worshipful Master and the officers, and especially Brother Lee, for making that happen and for sharing it with all of us. I want you to go there and give them some love. I've got the links in the description of the podcast. But just as important, I want you to follow up about your own lodge history. Talk to your Worshipful Master, talk to your lodge historian, and find out what you can about how your lodge history is being preserved. Find out what is in those locked filing cabinets, or in those closets that haven't been opened in years, or in those boxes in the basement of the lodge that nobody's thought about. There could be historical treasures in there, and you need to check them out and share them with the brothers of your lodge and brothers around the world. It's time we kind of reaffirm Freemasonry's importance in American history, in our communities, and all over the world. So check out their channel, give them a little love, but also check out your own lodge history. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Tyler's Place podcast. I'm Maynard Edwards. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want more information about Scottish Rite or about Freemasonry, you can drop us a line, membership@scottishrite.org. That's membership@scottishrite.org, or visit the website, scottishrite.org. And don't forget again to check out our YouTube channel along with Huguenot number 46. We'll catch you next time right here on the Tyler's Place.